All right, everyone, welcome back to Toxic Takes, our final episode for the season of SlamBall. Just recapping the season. So what we're going to be doing today is recapping some of the playoffs that happened last week. Sorry for the delay on that. And then we're going to do some pick'ems. We're going to look back at our pick'ems. There's no more games to pick. And then we'll be looking at the fantasy league results for the playoffs and then talk about some of our season superlatives. So let's get right into it. So looking at the playoffs, this was the first day of the games last Tuesday. Yeah, we were all on the slashers there.
Yeah, that was wasn't a hard pick at all. Even though the game was actually was tight for a bit, but the slashers kind of tore away in the second half.
Yeah, it was close. I was actually close, and then the slashers pulled away, and then the Griffins kind of pulled closer towards the end there, but slashers got it done. Tony Crosby doing his thing.
I think this championship day or this championship week was the first time I was able to actually catch pretty much every second of every game. And it was quite the spectacle.
I will say playoff SlamBall is different. Like the fact that it was win or go home just added an extra element. These guys are hitting harder. These guys are playing aggressive. And it was just fun to watch.
The Wrath couldn't live up to expectations, though. So
Yeah, that was the game where I tried to go crazy and say that because I normally pick against the Wrath, I'm going to take them this time, and of course it didn't work. So congrats to the Lava on their big victory there. Me and Will took the L, so yeah.
I should have known.
Yeah, I had that same logic. I was like, I've always picked against the Lava, and it's like never worked out for me lately because they went on that run in the back half of that season. So I went with them. They got the job done.
Yeah, but sadly they ran into the force that is known as the mob.
Yeah, so we'll look at that championship slate that they had.
Yep. So Buzzsaw and the Mob had a bye, and so because of that, they play on Thursday against the winners of those Tuesday games. And the Slashers knock off the Buzzsaw. Nice little upset. Of course, I was on
more than upset, to be honest.
Well, standings
seating wise, yeah.
Seating wise,
yeah.
That was the best game of the entire week, though.
Mm-hmm.
That was an intense ass game.
Yeah, it looks pretty close. Hey, Lava, they held their own defensively against the Mob there.
Yeah, they just simply couldn't score at all.
It
was 23 turnovers.
I mean, looking at the score, like the Lava didn't get embarrassed by the Mob. So,
no, I think that 13-point deficit is tied for the closest game that the Mob had all year. So
it's just incredible.
Hats off to the Lava. They tried their best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we don't even need to talk about the championship because look at the score.
I knew it was bad. I went to sleep at half because that was the 11 p.m. start time for that day.
It was like a 20-point game at half. The only life that the Slashers really had was Carshins was attempting his 4-point shots that he hit in the game against the Buzzsaw, and they were not falling this time. And he was just looking lost in most of the second half against the Mob.
Yeah, I think we compared that game to the TCU Georgia game. It was just not a championship game you want to watch.
Dude, every Mob game was TCU versus Georgia. It's so ridiculous. Yeah. Dude, like the Mob were honestly like boring to watch because they would just destroy everybody.
Yeah, they were fun but boring because you knew they were going to blow them out, but you were going to get some highlights in the process.
They got like highlight scores, but like at some points you just like, all right, this is like way too easy for them. Can we pick up the difficulty?
Mm-hmm.
They were playing on rookie the entire season, essentially.
Yeah, and like teams were getting better, but Mob was still just getting better too.
Yeah.
So they were just miles ahead the whole way. But yeah, your championship winners, the Mob, and they had a graphic. I thought it was kind of funny. They put it like 18-0 with all the perfect seasons, the Dolphins and I think UConn and all those that had perfect seasons.
Georgia's season this past year because Georgia.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because I guess it is professional, but you never really like compare those types of seasons, especially with how fast they dominated and how I don't know. This season was just quick, so it was just a cool graphic to compare. Yeah. Moving on to our pick'em. So you kind of saw where we were headed. We're gonna look at our individual brackets. So I actually went perfect.
Damn.
So I picked Lava, Slashers, and then I had Mob and Slashers in the championship. Ultimately picking the Mob. So yeah, if only March Madness was that easy, then I'd be making a lot of money there.
Yeah, I mean choosing the Mob to win was the right way to go. I didn't choose it. You'll see my bracket.
Yeah, which
I should have.
Look at AJ's bracket. He's not here to defend himself, but
I think me and Red had the same bracket.
Yeah,
I think you just picked Wrath too.
I picked Wrath, yeah.
Yeah, AJ rode with his Lava until he really couldn't anymore. Because choosing them against the Mob would be pretty silly. But a respectable bracket. If the bus made the championship, he very well could have. Well, he would have had the perfect bracket. So
yeah. Moving to Will, yep. So you had it right there, bud.
Well, the top left is also wrong because I chose Wrath and the Lava won that game. But
yeah,
we'll talk to the graphics team.
A little honesty there.
Yeah.
Hey, graphics team is doing all they can over here.
But yeah, no, I tried to go ballsy, choose the Slashers to win because I knew Marcus and Harris, I believe, had the perfect bracket. So I was like, the only way I can actually win this thing is if the Slashers win. So I rode with the boys. They didn't pull it out. They got demolished. Sad thing, but it's all right.
I respect it. I think the Slashers, they had so many chances to beat the Mob, and maybe going into it with 2 other playoff wins, then they could have done it. But I'm glad you had the balls to do it because I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to Fitch's bracket.
Yeah. 2 big X's there.
No errors here.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Mob in the goal.
Well, I think that's all that needs to be said. And then Harris again. I don't know what he was doing over there. I was looking over at my bracket. Copycat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see Harris's knowledge about the sport of SlamBall when we look at the fantasy scores.
Yeah, that is very valid. And then we'll go on to our playoff pick'em. So only 5 games. So just me and Harris going 5-0 there, and then AJ just getting that 1 game wrong. So
it's all right. I'll take it. Should have been 4-1 for me too, but we win some, we lose some.
And then that brings us to our season pick'ems. And I know AJ would be screaming right now, but we have 2 top dogs here. Tied him after his 4-1 performance, and me going 5-0. I caught right back up to him.
Well done.
Well, we'll pick it up next season when it comes to
percentage-wise, you were the worst.
I took a lot of ballsy picks at the end, but it had to be done.
But yeah, they're your final season pick'em record for this season. And then going to the fantasy league, so we had our draft. If you haven't seen that, you can go check it out. But this is the order of the picks first, and then we'll do the final standing. So Will's team, here it is.
Yeah, we went slasher heavy. It worked out for the most part, and then having the MVP Gage Smith helped out too. But kind of lacked in the points department in game 1 against the Lava, as we saw it was a really low scoring game. I don't think he had any points in game 1.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw 0 points, but
yeah, but I mean he did his thing. All the Slashers players contributed, and then sadly we just got pretty much nothing from everyone else, so that kind of hurt. But yeah, I mean we had a solid show.
Yeah, very respectable total there.
Yeah.
But that brings it to my team. Yeah, I mean, if you're a Toxic Takes fanboy, you would have noticed that I picked the second overall pick based on the regular season seeding. And I had a strategy in mind because I was going after Tony Crosby because I even said it in that episode that the Slashers are going to play 3 games. So I wanted Crosby, and he carried. Look at those point totals.
Yeah, you didn't even have Cam Hollins. You
Yeah.
still put out that point total. So
my only mob player just got hurt, but yeah, I went Lava heavy, which ended up being good because Lava ended up playing 2 games, and if you pick mob players, they only play 2 games, so that was a nice little
little shocking performance from Carshans to stop it for the Slashers in that second game.
Yeah, 35 was crazy.
He had I think 12 stops, and then he had those 4-pointers also. He had like 2 of them.
And then I will shout out Jace Bass there. I didn't even know this guy, but he comes out and drops 9 fantasy points. I'll take it.
Yeah, he did better than Cam Hollins.
Yeah, in 1 game. But yeah, 300 points is nothing to be ashamed about. It ended up being the highest total. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just not going to see anything better than it. Moving on to Fitch's team.
Yeah, not the best performance here. I went all mob, all buzzsaw, and all wrath, I guess. And looks like my guy in the bottom right lost me some points.
Yeah, he had 1 turnover as his only stat.
Buzzsaw only played 1 game and lost. Yeah, and then just can't complain about the points from the mob guys, but terrible draft strategy. So
Yeah, I respect it because you were on the buzzsaw, so
yeah,
you pretty much. I mean, you took the right strategy. If the buzzsaw were in that championship game, you probably would have had. Well, if you had their point totals from that their first game, just say 10, 13 and a half, and 15, you would have had an extra like 40 points to your team total. So it would have been a respectable total if that happened, but
yeah,
it did not.
Yeah, and then moving on to the other 2 that aren't here. See AJ's team cracking 200 there. He had 2 lava players.
I think he went Jones with his first, or did he go Jamal Barnes with his first pick?
I think it was Barnes.
And then he had a Fessel or Faisal.
Yeah, did his job.
Pick. He did his job. Other than that, though, he had a lot of people that only played 1 game, and that kind of hurts.
Yeah, it's an interesting draft strategy for playoffs because you kind of want to mix it up so you get those players that play more games, but then at the same time you see like he's got some players playing 2, 1 playing 3, 1 playing 1, so it kind of worked out.
Yeah, sadly, none of us had a Tony Crosby on our team besides you. I think he got you like 110 points by himself.
Yeah, it's just absurd. That guy is unreal.
Yeah, that he carried you in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And then moving to Harris's team, I think we got to censor this or something. We can't have this on for too long. This is just
skip.
Yeah.
Nothing to see there. So the overall standings here, hopefully there's no errors on the graphics department, but I think we have the right order here.
It's good.
I think we do. Fitch, how's it? You're the only one that can represent yourself from the bottom 2. So how's it feel? Fair enough.
What, did you say something to me?
Yeah.
What'd you say? I didn't even hear you.
I said you're the only one that can represent yourself from the bottom 2. So how do you feel?
Oh shit. It feels fine. I mean, I had an idea in mind of what I wanted to do for the draft, and it just didn't work out. So I'm just gonna have to eat it. And
you didn't do too bad.
Harris is just an idiot, so it doesn't matter what you do. But yeah, I'm eating this one.
Fair enough.
Hey, we'll be back. All right, moving on to our superlatives, the last topic on this episode and for the season. So we have 10 superlatives. So we're just going to run through these and give our thoughts here. So the most electric player goes to Tony Crosby II for obvious reasons here. I mean, every time this guy touched the ball, you just didn't know what was going to happen.
Looks like the graphic department spent a lot of time on this and not a lot on my bracket. That's okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
we wanted to have actual edits for the like proper edits for these guys, but
no,
you know,
I do not disagree. He was I think this was probably between him and Darius Clark. Uh, and I don't think you could go wrong with either of them. So Tony Crosby, being the 5'6" man that he is, he was jumping quite high every game. So
yeah, the assists, the flashy dunks, just
and
fun to watch.
he was throwing his body out there
Yeah,
too.
the hits. This guy is electric. So most electric player goes to Tony Crosby. Next up is Darius Clark here with the highest hops.
Yep.
Another well-deserved award, I think. He seemed like he had like half his body above the rim every single time he dunked.
Mm-hmm.
Got the
Yeah, I
world
mean,
record to back it up.
Yeah,
right. So put him on a trampoline, he's gonna still be the highest.
Yep.
And I mean, he was in contention for most electric because again, when he had the ball, we didn't know what was gonna happen. Any highlight could happen at any second, but
yeah.
highest hops, he was up there. So that award goes to Darius Clark. And then our most improved player goes to Brian Bell Anderson. Started a little slow, but he really came on into his own towards the end.
Yeah, I think if he didn't have the last week that he had, where I think he had like a 20-point game and a 30-point game, this very well could have gone to a different player. But he showed that he at least he belonged on the floor when the Ozone were playing, because not many of their players really belonged on the floor. It seemed like, but in that last week, Brian Bell Anderson held his own.
Yeah, and being the youngest player in the league, I believe,
Yeah,
just having to prove himself. I could tell he was probably a little nervous at the beginning, and they had him at handler, but I think they moved him to gunner towards the end, so he was just more of a scoring option, and ended
yeah,
up winning the dunk contest too.
yeah. No, that's another thing we could have talked about. That dunk contest was pretty electric as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's some upside down dunks,
Yeah,
crazy ones. That was fun.
and I'll mention briefly about that dunk contest. Is Crosby got snubbed because he can do that quadruple between the legs. You can pull it up on Instagram. He's done it before, but if only he did it that night, he would have won. But
Yeah,
still, props to Bell Anderson for MIP. Moving on to our best face-off players, Justin Holmes. I believe he went perfect in offensive face-offs. Like the only player that can say that. So, work
yeah. I
goes to him.
remember texting in that group chat that we had that other than Hollenbeck and Holmes, the Griffins were like by far the most boring team to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And then
once
Tayshaun Jones
yeah,
popped in.
started to pop up, but in that first week, Holmes was catching some eyes because he was dunking on anybody when he was going off in the face.
He likes that little side windmill almost. It's just
Yeah, he always comes from that like that left side.
yeah, it's like a hammer, dude.
No, but he yeah, I don't know if I ever saw him really get blocked the entire year, whether it was on a face-off or just in general, because he always had that weird dunk style where he was like a leaning slam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy because if you go perfect, then like there's not one time that you messed up or missed it
Yeah.
yourself or
And
even got blocked,
he
like
had
you
a lot of
said.
opportunities too. I think he had like close to like 20 offensive face-offs. So
Yeah, so good for him. He wins our best face-off player for our superlatives. Moving on, this one might be controversial, but we had to give it to the leading block per game guy, Faisal Shafat.
I know AJ is probably upset not to present this award himself,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone thought this guy would be a nobody
He
for the
didn't even have
most.
a picture at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season.
But he proved to pretty much be the Lava's best player because when Bryce was out, it was up to him, at least to hold down the fort defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it to guys like Shockley to try to score. But I mean, yeah, you could give this award to Gage or Taekwon or a few other people, but I don't think it's wrong to give it to Shafat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if only AJ was here, he would be clapping. He would be celebrating. Basil is what he'd say. But yeah, best defensive player. Moving on to best offensive player goes to Ty McGee, the leading points per game player in SlamBall.
Christian, I know you're the biggest Wrath fan out there. You wanna dive into this?
Yeah, well, he's just the proven guy here. Had a hell of a year. Uh, I think he won an award like this, or at least similar to this in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So good for him. Everybody loves him. Hell of a year. See what he can do next year. Congratulations.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to watch. He just doesn't do anything fancy. He just gets to the hoop and just gets
Yeah.
points.
If you look at any of his highlights, he does I think he catches people off guard the way he
Yeah,
off the trampolines because he'll just mosey his way into the little into the box, and then he'll jump twice, and all of a sudden he scored, and they're like, what the hell is that? He scored pretty effortlessly most of the time. It wasn't like you see Darius Clark dunking on people or Tony
mm,
Crosby. It was just he did two-handed dunks, just simple big man dunks. And, it worked.
yeah, fun guy to watch. So that's best offensive player. Moving on to best coach. I don't think we have to really say much about this one. Had him
No,
on the show before the season, and you could just tell.
Hell of a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely appreciate his time coming on to the pod. Hell of a season. Just a great guy. And just,
appreciate his support near the
yeah,
end as well.
Shout out, Mr.
absolutely.
Kirsch.
Yeah, just fantastic guy. And couldn't be happier for him with the 18-0 season. And wish him all the luck moving forward.
Very well deserved.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, nothing more to say here. It speaks for itself.
Yep.
Moving on to our most underrated player award.
Yeah, I
Goes to
brought this
Kalen
guy up in our
Tippensville.
very first episode here. I said keep an eye on this guy, and yeah, he turned out to be a little bit of a beast. Although he's on the Rumble, but he made himself. He was clearly the best player on the team, and he's fun to watch. So good for him.
Yeah, some may say, I guess, that they were empty stats because most of his points did not lead to victories, but he still had to score those points, and he was
Yeah.
pretty good doing it.
Being
Yep.
on a lackluster team like the Rumble, if they didn't have him, they really would have been
Nah, yeah,
terrible.
I don't even know how many points per game they averaged, but if they didn't have him, they would have been probably close to averaging under 25 points a game.
And like I said, I love those hyphenated last names, so he's
Yeah.
proving me right here. Mr. Consistency. So he didn't get Defensive Player of the Year, but he was very consistent, so we had to give him some sort of superlative here. Goes to Tyquan Scott.
Yeah, I mean, missing out on the DPOY, but he gets something here. He gets his props.
Consistency does not go unnoticed over here. So
It doesn't.
congratulations.
Yeah, looking at the stats, I think he only scored once, so he was consistent in that aspect too of staying on defense, but he would
Yeah,
consistently get the blocks and the hustle plays.
you would never see him move up the court like Gage or maybe Fields for the Rumble or sometimes Faisal, but he did his thing when he was defending the basket. So
And the Buzzsaw were the number 2 seed, so they definitely needed it. And I think that brings us to our last award, clearly. MVP. Another one
yeah,
of these where you don't have to say much, you just
no
know.
debate. It's pretty self-explanatory. MVP from the actual league and SlamBall. MVP from us makes sense.
The Swiss Army knife can do anything you ask and at a high level, so part of the reason they went 18-0.
Do we know if they're maintaining the same teams going into season 2 of this revamped SlamBall, or are we doing a redraft?
I don't know. I'll keep my eye out on the news, but I wouldn't be surprised either way, but I would assume they stay with their teams.
Yeah, I think they might stay with their teams, but some players might get thrown into a draft or a redraft only because there's probably some players, no offense to some of them, that they don't want to invite back. 'Cause they didn't really do much.
Yeah,
So
they could have a little like
yeah,
redraft with a new player pool, and then maybe keep
yeah,
a
maybe
few
like if
players.
you get to keep like your starters, or you get to keep like a four, and then you take you have a draft of like two or three other players,
Mm.
3 other
And
rounds.
we can't throw expansion out the window too if they have expansion drafts too. Keep like almost similar to what you were saying, keep players and then have everyone else be eligible to be drafted.
I'm sure we'll learn more as we once we hit the summer next
Mm-hmm. Exciting stuff, but I know the mob definitely want to keep their core together.
year. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They could easily go 36-0 if they keep all those guys.
That could be interesting. Something to monitor here in the sports world. How long can the mob win? But that is it for our superlative. So this is our final slide. I wanted to thank everyone for a great season. We started with 5. We're whittled down to 3 of us here, but all of us would say thank you for watching. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the button. Thank you guys for tuning in. SlamBall is only going to grow, and so is this podcast. So we're
Mhm.
excited.
And stick around potentially for an NFL series. I don't know how many of you actually watched this far into our podcast, but if you are, here's a little Easter egg for you. Keep an eye out for some NFL action, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Mm-hmm. All right, fellas. I think that's it. That's a wrap for the episode and for the season. Catch you next time.
Appreciate it.